Namo Ramanaya, Namo Ramanaya, Namo Ramanaya, Namo Namo, Namo Ramanaya, Namo Ramanaya, Namo Ramanaya, Namo Namo. Ramana Bhagavat Padam Bhoje Sada Ramatam Mano. Ramana Bhagavat Padam Bhoje Sada Ramatam Mano.
Bhagavan Sri Ramana's basic lesson is that joy is inherent and natural. Two things he has said to an early devotee called Siva Prakasham Pillai. In 1902 he came to Sri Bhagavan, and Bhagavan said, first thing, that happiness is inherent. Inherent means not outside yourself. You cannot outsource happiness. It is there in you. And to the extent to which you think is anywhere else, that inherent joy which does not depend on anything else, which is independent of anything else, cannot be yours. What is yours cannot be taken away by anybody else except by yourself. You alone can take away what belongs to you. And therefore, it is totally independent of the process of any decisions you may make. I want to be happy, I don't want to be happy, I want to do this and don't do this. These are seeming options to us. See, the options are to the thinking mind. To you and me, the option, you don't have any option. If you want happiness, there's only one track, direct path. The mind takes its options. The mind which says, I decide this and that, is the mind which you have to see. What is this thing called a mind? What is it, the purpose? What is does not serve? What is its nature, real nature? Why are we acting as if this is its real nature when its real nature is altogether different? So it is the first and foremost lesson Bhagavan says is happiness and inherent, and every human being is only searching for happiness. He is not doing anything else. You may be searching it as wrong doors, but you are only doing this, searching for happiness. You are searching for happiness, and that is why you all love yourself. Self-love is based because it's natural to be happy. I want to be happy, and therefore I love myself. The source is myself. I love myself does not mean I love this body and all. I love myself, I love the truth in me. I want to be happy, I cannot be unhappy. Any unhappiness disturbs me, and therefore I want to go on again and again to that state, and I am deprived of myself. Attention to oneself, Bhagavan says, is only because of this inherent happiness in him, and therefore he is all the time in love with the self. His own self, it looks like it, but it's not like that. He is in love with his self, in him, the truth in him, and therefore cannot but look for it in his life. So the primary lesson is that it is that happiness is your nature, and therefore you have no option. You have to discover that, and the discovery is not a process of searching here and there. Search means that I know what I want, and search means a certain goal towards which I am searching to achieve. Here in non-achievement, in putting aside all your notions of whatever you have thought is the source of happiness, and give this a try. Give this try which you have not given. Try to what? Go where? Within yourself, not to any other place. Sthana, swasthana. It's your own place. Where else can you go? Wherever you wander, you have to go back to home. The birds may fly in the sky, Bhagavan says, in the mid-air. But unless they come back to their daily perch on this earth in a particular tree, they cannot be happy. You have to be restless. You cannot have rest in your lives so long as you don't restore yourself to that place, that only one and only place of joy. And joy which is not the product of anything, but an awareness of your own state, of that inherent joy. And if it is sahaja, naturally it has to be universal too. It cannot belong to any individual. All you call so-called happiness is only individual happiness. I suppose it's different. So if you look at it, there are trillions of minds. Each mind is different. It depends upon its own environment, its own experiences. But there is one common thread between you and me, the common state of inherent happiness. That inherent happiness is common, that is the universal oneness, not the diversity of each mind. But the mind, as many minds as there are human beings, there is no doubt about that. Even with the closest person's mind is different from my own mind. Mine which I call, once I say it's my mind, it has already divided me. It's my mind, My mind, my various inputs into that mind, whether in this life or previous lives brought forward, it is there. All the experience unfortunately docks you in memory. Memory is there in seed form, and it will not let you go if you hang on to the belief that there is a separate individual mind. The question we have to examine is there a separate mind? What is the separate mind? Individual mind. Can there be two minds? Can there be two eyes? These are the questions Bhagavan asks of you as persons endowed with intelligence coming from himself. It is his intelligence, not yours and mine, that can give you the solution too, because he is the fullness of consciousness, and that consciousness alone will turn you back to himself, to yourself. So it is that, don't forget this truth, happiness is in you, and that is your nature, and you do not depend on it from any other source. It is almost as if, it is there all the time. You have gone to all these experiences because you are not aware of it, you don't have the knowledge of that, and the way to be sustained in that awareness, you are put through all these difficulties. Okay, therefore, Bhagavan's first lesson, please be aware of this truth. That is what you are looking for, happiness. You can never fail to look for that. Wherever you will see, wherever you look only for that happiness. It is happiness you are seeking. It may be true in seeking your happiness, you are also seeking the sorrow enormous. That's why that verse of Muni says that Soka, that is the idea that there is anything outside of oneself. What is the soka here? What is the ignorance here? That there is anything outside of yourself, any happiness outside of yourself. If you poise happiness outside of yourself, then it becomes dependent, not independent. Is it not? It is not swaswarupa, not your own state. See, that is why you have to be very clear on this basic fundamental. He incessantly and repeatedly tells us. The very first verse begins like that. First verse of Saddarshan says, locates it for us. There is this anubhavasthana, the experience state, the experience of the anubhava, or by the mind which is pure and rid of the ignorance going out, is the atmanubhava, which is the joy. So therefore it is located on the basis of his own experience in the heart for us. Location has been given. Don't search here and there. Don't waste your time, short time in life. Look where you should look. Don't stray elsewhere, says Bhagavan. That is where you should look, not any other place. Because looking anywhere else, you cannot find what happiness you are seeking. Happiness is seeking because seeking is necessary because you are thinking not happy. You are not aware of that. Seeking understood is only in that context. So it is that the very place has been indicated to you. It is the place where your own place. Swasthana, your own place is the source of all happiness and nowhere else. This is first look. Then, therefore, where is birth and where is death? To whom is the birth and whom is death? The one who is born has to die. Which is born, which dies? What are you as now? You are the mind or you are the body? Let us go into that. What are you? You can only be two things. No, you got a body, you got a mind. You cannot be anything other than these two, no? So, this body, Bhagavan says, has no inherent consciousness. Why? In sleep you see it's as good as dead body. When you sleep, the body is there. It has no awareness by itself. I am sleeping. I am enjoying the rest of sleep. No. It is completely like a shava only. And dead body also is similarly actually a shava because the consciousness is not there in that body. Here the consciousness is not delinked wholly, but you are delinked from it, and therefore the corpse is there, the body is there. And therefore, put aside this body as if it were a corpse. Put aside means don't attach value to this body, because if you suffer pain or sorrow, it's the mind who suffers. If I say I have pain in my left leg, is mind only registered. My pain is there in the left leg. If you enjoy anything, your mind says that I am enjoying because it to the tongue or to the senses or whatever way it enjoys. It's the mind which gives you the messages. It's the mind which gives you all these messages. And therefore, without link of consciousness, this body has no awareness. Other reasons also Bhagavan has given, because this body was not there before. If you have got a rebirth naturally, this body was not there. You were not Ramaswamy, I was not Natarajan, I may be something else. K.S. Raghunathan is not K.S. Raghunathan. Then when I go to, if my carried and I reduced to ashes, I will not continue as A.R. Natarajan. Another name, another circumstance, another things. Goes on. So, this is as good as Shava only. Because without the conscious element in that, this does not know, this body. Okay. Then what is it that what we call the mind is the link of consciousness with this body. As soon as you get up, there is a link of that consciousness in this mind. That Shava-like body becomes conscious. It becomes aware of everything. Therefore, Bhagavan has explained, the Prakasha mind is illumined by God's presence as consciousness. And it is secretly there, because you have not found it. That consciousness not found, it is secretly, Gupta. It is secretly there only, not elsewhere. And because of that, you are feeling all the feelings which this body experiences. All the feelings are the experiences of this mind through the body. Body is an instrument of the mind for its enjoyments and sufferings. Therefore, this body has no inherent consciousness. This is made conscious because of one reason only. In deep sleep, when the mind is silent, it has to be associated with that happiness. When the mind is silent, when the mind is not, I want this, I don't want that, and kind of series of desires and fears and all whatnot, they are in a state of silence, not voluntary. No, of course, involuntary state of silence. When you are in the involuntary state of silence, you have to experience that state. You are experiencing. It is not as if that experience is outside yourself. You are not consciously experiencing it. You are experiencing that sleep, in deep sleep, because the mind is not there in the sense of thinker and his thoughts. It is experiencing that joy. That is therefore it's wanting sleep every day. It cannot do without it. It wants sleep because it must have that association with consciousness in fullness. It must taste its own natural state. It must do so every day. Therefore, in the divine scheme of things, by that divine power itself, you are given that experience, by that fullness of consciousness. But you are not conscious in sleep. And therefore that experience is only a recollection. I slept well. It's a recollected happiness, like any other happiness and joy. Therefore, only difference in dimension is it was the fullness of happiness, not a sectional dependent happiness. That is the abidance in that state of silence in your own heart gives you that repose, gives you that peace. And therefore, you wake up from this and your mind starts its chakra, its rounds, movements. Movements are so fast and so continuous, it does not allow you to investigate. If you investigate, there is so much danger for the mind. If you investigate what is this mind, oh my God, I do not want any investigation. Go on fast, think A, B, C, D, E, F. Pay your attention to so many multiplicity of things. You go on paying attention. And therefore, you don't pay attention to the question of what is the source of happiness in me. Don't put that question. If you put that question, then you may not allow my jurisdiction. So that is another real problem. This mind will never keep silent because its purpose it's a double-edged weapon. Because it is consciousness, because without consciousness there is no body. At the same time, it is filled with unwanted thoughts, totally and so fully, which suffocating and does not prevent the silence needed to be aware of the truth. When always thinking and thinking and thinking, how can you be silent in order to enjoy that bliss? When silence is a precondition, and that is a natural state of your mind, moving away from the natural state and in getting caught in the movement, you cannot enjoy the natural state. That's logical, I think. If you are away from your own natural state, you cannot have that silence. The silence of the mind and the silence of the truth, the happiness are intertwined so close. You cannot separate the two. They are two there. And therefore, it is that in the vastness of that silence itself is the discovery of the truth. And that is being given, a dose of that happiness is being given to you by divine scheme of things every night. When the mind is silent, not by choice, but by the divine scheme itself. Allowed your own freedom, you will not rest for a single minute. You don't want to go to bed at all. So many things to do, so many things to achieve. Don't ask the question, who is the achiever, for whom all these achievements? Don't. Please, leave me alone. That is the purpose of this double nature of this mind. It's at once a friend and a foe. Friend because of the consciousness in it, is the power which enables you to go back. Because that consciousness is the divine source, divine power. That's a divine power or intelligence. If you use rightly, it gives right results. If you use wrongly, it will give only wrong results. Wrong and right is a label given to understand. Anything which places happiness outside of itself is wrong. And the mind, second part, the other part of the mind always locates it outside. Never within itself. That is why it is an enemy. Because by the very movement, it has taken you outside. And the movement takes place because you are located happiness. You are all the time seeking only happiness, thinking only of happiness. And therefore, you say, I want this, I want that. Because of that is located as a source of happiness. What you locate as a source of happiness, the mind seeks. The second of the thought-ridden mind. It is almost as if where the purpose of this thought is to decoy you away from that natural happiness. What's only purpose? At the same time, we cannot call this mind, the individual mind, and throw it aside because that is the one which has to bring me back to my home. That's a bridge back to consciousness, bridge back to my home. What Bhagavan says, eschew that false notion that there is need for any happiness outside of yourself. When there is no need at all, why do you go for searching for what? What you are already having. Why do you look for anything else? When you already have, where is the need for look? If you look, you may look rightly or wrongly. And you are looking wrongly because of many memories embedded in that mind which keeps telling you, no, 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 everything is outside, nothing within you. In the outside of what? A womb. Outside means the objects. In the objects, in the circumstances, in the environment, there is my happiness. And there is your sorrow there, the Muni says. There is the sorrow. Because it decoys you from your own natural state. It's like the purpose of the musk deer, to decoy, not to help. Therefore, Bhagavan says, don't label any thoughts. Don't say it's good thought, bad thoughts. All thoughts remove you from silence and make you believe that you have to get something outside. So don't allow the thoughts to flow. That is the only sadhana. The flow of thoughts arising from the strong and inherent belief, a rooted belief that outside of yourself is all joy, and unless you repeatedly learn to experience this joy, there is no substitute. Bhagavan Sri Maharshi told once Vishwanath Swami, how all these things are not going. It can go only if you experience that. You must go by that itself, because you only experience of a truth will give you is your own, and experience by you as your own. I don't have to give a lessons on natural happiness or anything. It will be there in you. It is in you. So what you are experiencing, not with the mind, but without the mind. Not with the mind, please. Without the mind, because the mind, what is nature of the mind, will just go into later on. But unless you put aside this thinking mind and its decoying ways, unless you are aware of God's presence in this mind itself, as the I, that is God's presence, consciousness. Not with this name and form and things which come and go in time. Therefore it is that Bhagavan repeatedly turns your attention back. So in the vastness of movement you cannot discover. Who can discover? The train is moving so much fast. The track condition has to be good, otherwise it will be derailed. Who notice anything? So it is you alone have to be your guru. The guru is there guiding. Not in that sense. You are a disciple who wants to practice what the guru says. You are not concerned with anything else. Guru's role, and why should Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi put on this garb except for to teach? And therefore, what does he teach? That your happiness is inherent. Happiness is inherent. Don't look out, don't need. If it's inherent, why do I look? I should look where it is and I should find it. And therefore I should remove all the abstractions for that inward look, that in turning attention, only attention. Because repeatedly you may remember the mind's power is only attention. The attention it gives to anything is its power. That is the consciousness in the mind. In that attention given to anything is the fruition, not outside. And therefore if it attends to the first person I and not to the related things, then it will know the truth. Attending to the first person is the first lesson in removing the abstraction. No, first lesson is clear. Happiness is inherent and natural, your own, nobody can give it to you, nobody can destroy it, yourself, except yourself. Yourself means what? My mind. My mind. Not the mind which has not the various upadhis are connected with various identifications, endless identifications with which it's now associated. Therefore it is said that this mind is of a double-edged nature because it's consciousness and it also the other characteristic of identification with which it is not. The identification itself is wrong. Why do I need all these things to get joy? What am I existing for joy? Do we need these upadhis? If I need these upadhis, then all those things which come from these upadhis must also be my part of my need. Once I say I am this, and all other things are also mine, and so many divisions. This is mine, this is not mine, this is what I want, I don't want. So many endless divisions. Once you introduce the concept of the individual mind, thinking is separate and entity in its own, forgetting that its source. Therefore you have to go back to that business of finding out for yourself, where did this mind come from, where did it go, where can it exist? Can it exist in mid-air? Can it exist in mid-air? To think the very idea of source of mind is being given only to us by Bhagavan Ramana. It is a source, just as your source of your body may be genetics, But there is a source for this consciousness. Source of the mind means the source of the conscious content of the mind, not of this body. No, it is source of the conscious content of the mind. And the conscious content alone is matters in this mind, nothing else. Rest of it is chaff. So the conscious content is not as an origin and subsidence. Each day in deep sleep and waking from the deep sleep. Therefore it must have gone there by inference, not anywhere else. Because he is enjoying that bliss in that silence. Therefore it is in that state. It is there, very much there and nowhere else. So it is that the one and only lesson we may say of Bhagavan Sri Ramana is that happiness is natural and it's your own state. Look for it where you should look for it, in your heart. Not by thinking about it, because thinking is not experiencing. Where the thinker is not, there is the experience. This experience, in this experience, the self-awareness, the thinker is not there. There is only the vastness of his silence. The individual is lost in the ocean. The individual consciousness is lost in the totality of that vastness. A seed all going to the ocean cannot measure anything. It goes. It's natural. It is seed. It is made of seed doll also like that. So it naturally emerges. Therefore the examples usually are given. Bhagavan himself has given that example. As natural for the rivers to seek the ocean, is natural for the consciousness content to go back to its fullness. What is intelligence in it does not want to have little of it. It wants its totality, the fullness. And therefore it inheres in the self by that which is disassociated with the thinker. The thinking mind can never reach it, because the thinker is the enemy, nobody else. Because they're all your thoughts, and therefore who is the enemy of your own money? Thinker. In that light and in that spirit, let us go into it deeper, because we want to know, all said and done, we want to be happy people, not always complaining about this and that, always seeking this and that. We want to enjoy our own state. That's our life. That's why the great God has given you an opportunity. How many opportunities great God gives? That's unfortunately the truth. So many opportunities. Okay, this life is not gone, not used. Okay, go next life. How many times to go on in this? But that question also nobody asks. Okay, this is fine. That's the attitude. If you say, okay, this is fine, you have to suffer and enjoy whatever you think you are. Why do you go to that which you are not? You are not. You do not become that by merely thinking I am that. So it is, we should go into this obstructions only, because you and I are by nature immortal. There is no death or birth for us. The birth and death relates to the bodies. The birth and death relates to the mind. Not for me. I am always that. That which I am always am. The super-emotions are only ideas. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
रमण भगवत् पादाम्भोजे सदा